We love a game of Would You Rather at Electrifying, and today's contestants are
the Volkswagen ID.3 and the new Kia Niro EV.
two good family cars, but which would you rather?
I know.
We're going to be doing quite a few of these little would you rathers. So please let us know what you'd like to see us put head to head. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn those notifications on.
Now, there's a few more bells and whistles on this ID.3, but both cars with the same size battery do start at around £36,000, depending on how the car makers are feeling that particular week, because prices are going up and down quite a lot at the moment. But what's more interesting is when you dig around at lease deals, we found one actually at the moment, £450 for each of these cars, so they're bang on when it comes to monthly repayments on lease.
Yeah, they are very, very similar, although prices do change and other providers are available. And don't forget, you can go and check on electrifying.com because we have all the latest lease deals out there. The interesting thing though is that both of these cars are 5 seats, hatchbacks, 4 wheels, they've got steering wheels, everything is the same. They should cope with pretty much anything that family life tends to throw at them. What I would point out though is that is a bespoke electric car platform. So that should have some inherent advantages. And this one has hybrid versions that do have engines. So it might be a little bit compromised.
Well, there is only one way to find out, and let's start with the looks.
So starting with the Niro EV, it is all refreshed and I think it looks particularly handsome. Some of the bits that I do like is the front looks really technical and quite grown up and a little bit more aggressive than it did before. One of the details is really nice. You see this kind of black moustache at the front? Well, the sensors for the advanced driver assistance systems are all sort of plugged behind that, so it keeps it all nice and clean. Also, the charging point is here, right in the centre of the nose, so no more reversing into charge point parking spaces. I like it, but a certain Miss Ginny Buckley was not so impressed. You didn't even like it when you first saw it.
That's not true at all.
It is true.
That's not true. I did like it. The bit that I wasn't sure of was this kind of colour-coded panel. I know it's got a job to do for aero. How much? I've got no idea. And I have actually seen it when it's matched, so it's same colour as the car. It looks a lot better. I just don't like picking it out as a feature. I think it looks a bit old-fashioned, thinks it looks a bit 80s.
I think she's wrong.
And that's why he likes it, because he's a bit old-fashioned and a bit 80s. And also, just go and look at the back. Ford Focus.
Oh
Anyone?
My goodness, you're right. It really does look like a tall Ford Focus, doesn't it?
But other than that, I do like the feeling of the robustness that you get. It looks quite chunky.
Well, this feels more like an SUV.
I know, but it's not an SUV.
It kind of is an SUV.
No, the marketing team can call it what they like. It's not an SUV.
Therefore, it's an SUV. Anyway, let's talk about the ID.3. Come this way.
Come on.
The first thing to point out about the Volkswagen ID.3 is that this is a bespoke electric car. That means there are no petrol engines involved. I think it looks quite nice. It's all been packaged really brilliantly. Basically, there's a motor driving the rear wheels at the back here. Very space efficient, Ginny.
It is very space efficient, but I think it looks a bit snouty at the front. It's a bit chopped off. And you said the most faint but damning praise in that sentence when you said it was nice.
It is.
But what's really interesting to me is that this might be the bespoke electric car, but actually it doesn't have a frunk. This one does.
That's weird, isn't it?
I just think of the two, this just feels a bit more substantial to me, and this is just a bit more, okay, all right, meh.
Well, there is one advantage of being a bespoke electric car, and that's space efficiency, because actually the ID.3 has the most space in the back seats.
Let us try. Let's have a look then. Oh yeah, it's
See?
High over there.
It's not got that much shoulder space, but it has got a lot of leg room.
It has. I'm not convinced there's that much in it though. Should we check out the boot?
Let's look at boots.
Boot.
See? Easy to get out.
It is. I still do like that. I was expecting a powered tailgate, you see.
It has not got one.
No, it hasn't got a powered tailgate. It's fine, isn't it? It's perfectly acceptable.
It is slightly bigger than a normal average hatchback. So it's 385 litres, and it is also a little bit bigger if I do that.
Okay, yeah.
Ta-da! Extra space and somewhere to put your cables.
Brilliant. Well, I do like that. But let's just check out the Niro as well, just to compare.
Okay.
Go on. Noisy.
Oh, sorry.
Right. But you see, look at this. A powered tailgate.
You do get a few more toys.
And it's just a more usable shape, isn't it?
That is quite big. I mean, there's all of that under there as well. This one is 485 litres, so it is a good chunk bigger than in the ID.3. It's a more practical car in terms of boot space.
Okay, inside?
Back seats.
Oh, okay. I'm small. They always feel big to me.
It's still quite big, but it's not quite as spacious as the ID.3,
I agree.
weirdly. It feels a little bit lower in the roof.
It does, you feel a bit more enclosed.
Yeah.
Do you know what really matters to us though?
What?
The view from the driver's seat.
So this is okay. It's got a nicely spacious feel. You notice that there's actually a flat floor down there with this centre console. You know that this is a bespoke electric car. And it's got this 10-inch touchscreen in the middle, but oh my goodness, I have tried this infotainment system in several different cars now, including ID.3s and ID.4s, and I find it lightly infuriating. It's laggy, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it's fine, which makes it more frustrating, not less. And this bar underneath, it doesn't light up at night. If you don't know exactly where everything is, and because there's no buttons, you can't feel for it, you can't really see what you're supposed to do. And that controls the temperature for the aircon with those buttons and the volume for the stereo. So it just feels like it's missed loads of little bits of detail that would make this car a lot easier to use. That's very frustrating. I think the weird thing is that VW seemed to design something that looked really nice for early VW ID models, but then when they got it out, it didn't really work as they intended, and they've not quite caught up with the software yet. So it looks pretty, but it still doesn't work, and that means it's pointless. It does depend on what spec you go for, and if you want to know more about the different options on specifications and the different models, please do log on to electrifying.com and we'll help you figure it all out. It does drive perfectly nicely though. It steers nicely, and because the motor is packaged at the back and driving the rear wheels, it's got a really nice tight turning circle because it's not trying to also drive the front wheels. So that's all very nice. It would be very useful in a city. In fact, there's not really an awful lot about the driving experience that would put you off. It does have quite a large blind spot in the C-pillar back there, but other than that, it's quick enough, it's accurate enough, it's quiet, everything you'd need really. All in all, I think it's a perfectly acceptable, actually quite nice little pure electric car. Although it's worth remembering that if you want to order a new VW ID.3 from VW, then you'll probably have to wait between 12 and 18 months because of supply chain issues that are affecting the whole car industry. That is a lot of time to want a fairly average electric hatchback. You're going to be sitting on that for a while, and new things will come out, and that will make you regret that long waiting list, I think. There is nothing wrong with the ID.3, I just think it's a little bit average, and new things are coming out all the time, which slightly make this car look like it's already a little bit on the back foot, especially with the technology, because some of it doesn't work. I've just tried to change a few things on this screen, and honestly, the whole thing just didn't react. And then now, it's reacting perfectly, and I don't understand the inconsistency. If this was my car and I drove it every day, that would drive me insane. I can't get away from the fact that everywhere you look, there's slightly cheap plastics. It doesn't feel like it's built out of anything nice. I sometimes think that I sound a little bit down on an ID.3, like I'm consistently unimpressed with it. And it's not that. I think an ID.3 is actually a really good car. The problem that Volkswagen's got is that there are quite a few other cars out there that do stuff better than the ID.3. And considering that this was supposed to be, you know, the forward-thinking modern electric vehicle on a bespoke electric platform, which is the MEB Volkswagen Group platform, it already feels like it's a little bit behind the times, especially with the infotainment, especially with the quality. I wonder sometimes whether Volkswagen launched this car too quickly and didn't actually finish off the things they were going to finish, or that they had to pare some of the cost out of it. So the interiors suffered because the car actually felt quite expensive, and then when you get in it, it feels a bit tinny.
I think you'll find that if you haven't already pre-ordered a Niro EV, you're going to be looking at around 6 months waiting list. You know, electric cars are increasingly popular, and the car market is in a wobbly place right now. What isn't wobbly though is the inside of this Kia. I know, that was a really awful segue, wasn't it? Can I just point out that Tom actually wrote that one? Shouldn't have said it, should I?
But it is appropriate, because very much like Big Brother Kia EV6 with this curving display and button bar underneath, lots of really good quality materials, it feels much more sorted than the old Niro. And even though this car is a top spec 4 grade, the more basic Niro EVs aren't actually all that basic. And they get the same battery and performance across the range. It's just the kit list that changes, which does keep things really nice and simple.
You know, I reckon that Kia really listened to the criticisms of the old Niro and made an effort to correct the issues, because it does feel a lot more grown up in here, although it isn't quite as playful as the ID.3, and it doesn't necessarily have that modern feel. It is still a huge improvement on the outgoing model though, a much nicer place to be. As for the driving though, well, there's a big plus point for that. I used to think the old Niro was a bit too aggressive for a family car. It used to scrabble its tyres in the wet, could be a bit jerky at times. This one just feels so much smoother. It's actually a bit slower than the old one because the power arrives more calmly. It feels a more relaxed, easy drive. It does, however, feel larger on the road than the ID.3, and that might well be important to you if you do most of your driving around town. What it doesn't feel is much slower than the ID.3. They have the same amount of power after all. However, the ID.3 does have a lot more torque, so I guess it feels more urgent than this when you put your foot down. Now you can change through 3 driving modes on the Niro EV. You have got normal, eco and sport. Put it into sport, that obviously just tightens things up, tightens the steering, slightly more urgency about it. Being completely honest, I'm not noticing a huge difference. I drive it quite a lot of the time in eco mode, which I've just flicked it into there because I like to get the most out of my battery. But you will probably end up using normal most of the time, and the car feels, you know, perfectly fine in that. One thing I think you will use a lot though, the paddles here on the steering wheel, which control the levels of brake regeneration. So this is when that energy that you would often lose through braking gets recouped and put back into the battery, and you can opt for different levels. In maximum, which I use quite a lot of the time, you can really get away with one pedal driving. I actually take great pride in the fact that I can now judge my distances when I'm driving the Niro, and that I'm actually able to bring the car to a complete stop without using the physical brake pedal at all. It's actually quite a fun little challenge to set yourself. But maybe I do just need to get out more.
Facts here. The ID.3 gets a 58 kWh battery and an official range of 249 miles. Plus, it gets 11 kW AC charging and a decent peak charging rate of 130 kilowatts. So you're looking at half an hour 10 to 80% on a big enough public rapid charger and just over an hour on a 50 kilowatt. Oh, and that's about 9.25 hours on a home wall box. All perfectly decent numbers for this kind of car. It is worth noting that a heat pump to aid efficiency is a cost option though. And if you look at the specs, a granny charger also costs extra. So be aware of that when you get an ID.3 or buy one second hand. They are useful and they cost money.
The new Niro EV actually has a lower charging peak rate than the old one at just 72 kilowatts. There's a but here though. It maintains a better average charging rate over that time. So you actually spend less time on the charger. Does it quicker? But there is no getting away from the fact that it can't handle larger power outputs. On a fast charger, you're looking at 45 minutes, whereas the ID.3 is charging up in 30. You're going to be away a lot quicker in the Volkswagen.
You might get away faster, but you'll have fewer miles of range as the Kia has a bigger battery and is more efficient.
That is true, Mr. Ford. Spend 15 minutes on a rapid charger in the VW and you would add 91 miles of range. Do the same in the Kia and you'll add 77.
But in the Kia, you might not have needed to stop in the first place because you'd have left home with an extra 35 miles of range.
That is a useful amount more. And if you use the sat-nav, the Niro preconditions the battery for more efficient charging as it approaches a stop. So I reckon this car will be pretty efficient. Other than that, there is 11 kilowatt AC charging, and it will take around 10 hours and 15 minutes to charge from flat to full on a home wall box. A bit longer than the ID.3 because of the bigger battery. And again, a heat pump is optional. And the higher grade Niro EVs also get vehicle-to-device charging ability, which means you can power anything from the car itself, even power tools.
Since when do you need power tools?
Never.
So, Ginny, would you rather a VW ID.3 or a new Kia Niro EV?
Kia Niro EV every time.
We don't agree very often, but it feels good when we do.
Are we on the same page?
We are, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, I know I'm a very boring human being,
Yeah,
but I
I'd
like
agree
the
with that.
fact. Don't be horrible. I like the fact that this is slightly bigger, it's slightly more practical. I like the fact that it's got a bit more space and you get more toys as standard with the Kia. And you know what? I don't really care that it's not a bespoke electric car because I just think it's really good. I'm going to throw in there the 7-year Kia warranty. It's a bit better than the Volkswagen.
Yeah, and you can tow with it, which is going to make a lot of people watching very happy. There's nothing wrong with this, but I just think that's more of a car, but without the side blades.
You've got a drill though.
Oh yeah, the drill.
You can get the side blades as something different
They'd
because
have
you can
to
make
be-
them colour coded.
They'd have to be colour coded.
I've told you about this before.
I know, and the drill is great.
Drilly, drilly, drill, drill.
And if you'd like to know more about either of these two cars or any of their competition, then please do log on to electrifying.com and we'll help you thrash out the details.